Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode on J of All Trades. Today I want to show you guys how to install luxury vinyl plank in your bathroom. You can see that I completed the entire shower area, so you can always check out my previous videos to see exactly how I did this entire shower. Now getting back to this flooring here, LVP or luxury vinyl plank is durable, it's water resistant, and it has a realistic appearance that actually mimics wood. So I'm going to be installing the luxury vinyl plank on top of this tile here, because this tile is level and the 5mm thickness of the vinyl plank will not make the floor much higher than what it is. The brand of luxury vinyl plank that I'll be using today is Duralex, and you can find this in Floor & Decor. I'll include a link in the description. You can notice that I used the same exact vinyl plank on my entire first floor here, and this is how it looks. It sort of has this natural plank wood look to it, and even the wood grain on it is convincing. This particular color is called Paisley Cape. To begin this process, you're going to want to clean out the entire floor. Make sure to remove all the pieces of debris that could potentially interfere with the vinyl plank. Next, I'll be taking a measurement of the dimensions of the bathroom because I want to cut some acoustical underlayment with vapor barrier, and this is specifically designed for luxury vinyl plank. This underlayment is optional because the vinyl plank does come with this type of thing built into it. But I want to put the extra underlayment underneath the vinyl plank to give me added acoustical treatment. Here you can just use a straight edge and a box cutter to cut this straight, or you can also use a scissor, whichever one you prefer. If you're going to use a box cutter, make sure you're using a sharp blade, and it may take multiple passes before you go through this material. This stuff also adds advanced moisture protection, which is perfect for being in a bathroom, and it also has great compression resistance, and of course, great sound reduction. Once you finish cutting this stuff, you can simply just drop it in place and just lay it out where it needs to go. Here I'm just removing this cloth that was blocking the toilet drain, and I'm just going to be laying it right over there and then cutting a hole in it. When I'm ready to install the toilet flange, it'll lay right on top of this flooring. Here I'm just cutting the fabric so I can get in between this piping here, and if you have any other object that it needs to go around, you can simply just cut around it and fit it right in. Keep in mind, it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to have great coverage over the floor. You can cut multiple pieces and join them wherever you need to, and make cutouts wherever necessary. For instance, you can see that this heater here needs to be cut around, so I'm just scoring the fabric and making sure that I cut out any excess there. This particular underlayment that I'm using is made by Quiet Walk. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description if you guys want to go out there and get the same exact one. And this one I got off of Amazon. I was able to get it at a decent price, 360 square feet for 150 bucks, which is not bad. Here's a closer look at the vinyl plank that I'll be installing today. And as you can see, that wood grain finish looks really nice. Here on the back, you can see that there's an attached pad here. And this creates a quieter, warmer floor, and it just gives it a lot more thickness, so I highly recommend this one. The width of this plank is about 8 inches wide, and the overall length of the plank is about 48 inches long. So one plank covers a decent amount of space. Before I started laying down the planks, I cut a hole out where the toilet drain is. You want to make sure that you prep everything that's going to be sitting below the plank, because you don't want to start ripping out planks to do something underneath. Now we can start dry fitting the first piece. And to do that, I just lay this plank out here just to see where it's going to land. And here I see that there's a lip here that I may want to remove to just butt up against that tub. I don't necessarily need to remove it because there's going to be a quarter round going over that, but I'm going to remove it anyway. To remove the lip, I'm just going to be using this knife, and I'm just going to score straight along here. You want to make sure that you got a nice sharp blade on there to go through this. Now we're going to dry fit this again, and we're going to check to see if this wall and this tub is square, and that looks pretty good there. So we're going to work with this, and we'll keep it without the lip. When you're installing vinyl plank, you're going to want to stagger them. You want to start the second row with a partial plank of at least 6 inches long, just to offset the seams from the first row. You want to begin the first row with a full length plank that is up against the tub there. Then you're going to cut the second plank that's going up against it at least more than 6 inches staggered. The reason why we stagger them is because you want to avoid aligning any of the seams, because that's a weak point where the plank can actually lift. and we don't want any of these planks to move out of place. Now that I have the length that I want, I'm going to make some marks here to cut around this pipe. Today I'm going to be using a jigsaw and also a knife to be cutting this. This type of vinyl plank interlocks where it has a lip and a tongue. And once you interlock it, you can simply just tap it by using a rubber mallet and it'll just slide right over. Next, I'm going to cut a shorter piece here to stagger this. Then I'm going to make a cutout for this drain hole. First, you want to fit this in and see where it lands. And this is going to give us an idea of where the hole is. Then we're going to take some measurements of the exact location from the wall, and then we're going to make a mark on the vinyl plank. There's a few objects that you can use to make this 4-inch hole. You can actually use this flange and then make the cutout, or you can find something laying around the house that has 4 inches in diameter, like this roll of tape here, and then we're just going to place it right over our marks, and we're going to make that circle. Now that we've got our circle, we can take a hole saw and then we can make a hole in this circle. This will allow us to get our jigsaw blade in here, and then we can cut the full circle out. One of the great things about using a jigsaw is that you can manipulate it into different angles, and this makes cutting a circle very easy. Now we're able to install this piece of plank as normal. As you can see, we've staggered these planks and I have a perfect hole around this drain. Now we can continue laying in each plank one by one, and you're always going to have some precision cuts to make at the corners. So I'll be using this table saw to take a sliver off, and here I have it set to 1/2 inch, and I simply just run it through the saw and I'm able to take that sliver off. I can also use a jigsaw with a guide, but I find that this table saw makes it a lot easier to just rip this through. The next best thing would probably be a track saw. If any of you guys have one laying around, that might be your next bet if you don't have a table saw. Once I reached my mark, I was able to remove this and then use the knife to just simply cut that piece right out. Now I'm all set to install this up against the tub. Once you get all your precision cuts done, it's simply just installing one plank after the next until you get to the other side of the room. As you can see, this flooring is already starting to come together and it's really looking good. When I finally got to the other side of the room here, I've got a baseboard heater in the bathroom here that I have to cut around, and I'm just taking some measurements to see what I need to take off. I decided to remove this cover off of the end of the baseboard so that it'll make it easier for me to fit this in. When you're putting a piece of plank in at the end of the wall here, you're going to notice that I'm keeping it in an angle to manipulate it into the groove. So this groove and tongue needs to interlock, and I'm using a screwdriver here to just pry it closer and closer together to make sure that it's tight. Once that was fully locked in place, I was able to put this cover right back on and I was good to go. One thing I can say, these precision cuts takes up quite a bit of time, but they're worth it in the end. The good news is you only have to do it once, and after that, this is pretty much in there. You're going to notice that I'm going to have a short piece at the end there that I need to install. It's not ideal, but it'll be fine because I'll be putting a cap at the end there. I'm going to repeat what I did at the end by removing this cover as well, because I want to get this to fit underneath this heater, and this is going to be one of the toughest parts. And for this, I'm going to be using this pry bar to just slide it underneath and then tug on this plank to get it to seat nicely into that groove. If it's not getting as tight as you want, you can just hook it in that spot and just simply tap on the pry bar until it pulls in nice and tight. Here's that little piece that I mentioned earlier, and we're simply just going to put it in there. And finally, we're going to install our last piece of plank. So far, I really like how this has turned out. This is looking really nice and solid. And as you can see, everything is fitting nice and tight. And here I have my cutout for my toilet drain. I will have a video showing you guys exactly how I installed that toilet flange into that drain, so check that out. Now getting back here to where the door is, you can see that I still need a transition here. And so I'm going to be placing a transition to go from this side of the room to the other side. And also I'm going to be putting molding all around these corners here. And that'll just fill in and cover any gaps and any creases that you see along the side of the wall. And I'll go all the way around with quarter round molding as well as some flat pieces. So getting back to this transition here. First, I want to put a transition in between this saddle, which you can see here is tapered. And I'm going to transition it from this saddle into the other side. So I'll be taking a measurement here. Then I'll be cutting this matching transition to length. This was also found in Floor & Decor, so if you guys want to go out there and get it, I'll put a link in the description. And as you can see, this comes with a track that gets secured to the floor. And here behind this transition, you're going to notice these ridges here. These ridges allow you to snap it in place into the track. And so when you flip over this track, you'll see that it'll be facing this side up. And then this will get snapped right into the track. So let's cut this thing down to size and then we'll install this. Today I'll be using this Milwaukee bandsaw to cut this. This tool does a really good job of cutting different types of material, and here I'm able to cut this transition and the track in one shot. And that looks like a nice smooth cut. You can even use a little file at the end if you'd like. So here, when I tried to put the track on this tapered edge, you'll notice that the track is in an angle. I'm going to need to put a shim on one side of this track so that I can make it level. Here I have a thin piece of scrap wood from a previous project, and I'm going to be using a sliver of this, and I'm going to put it at the bottom on the side of the track that needs to be lifted up. First thing I'm doing here is I'm cutting it to length. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to brace it up against something solid and use my knife to just cut a sliver off. Now I'm left with this thin piece of wood here, and I'm going to be using it as a shim to go right up against the corner. Now when I place my track in place, it's sitting nice and flush with the flooring. Now I can secure it with some screws. At this point, I had to do some more detailed cutting here at the edges. I had to remove about a ½ inch off of the transition just to get it to fit. Once it was all cut, I was able to just position it and then use a rubber mallet to just hit it down, and it just snaps right into place. Once this is positioned, that is not going anywhere. And I've got to say, this transition looks way better than having that big gap there. And here's a look at the molding against the flooring. Here I just used a baseboard molding and a quarter round to finish it off. And here is the entire bathroom after everything was all finished, so you can see how the flooring ties in with everything else. I really hope this video helped you guys to see ways that you can transform your bathroom by using waterproof vinyl plank. And I want to thank you for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe to this channel to continue to get more videos like this one. And I'll see you guys on the next one.